Good afternoon, everyone. I believe we're all live here. Stephanie, are you good? All right. Great. So this is the Board of Estimate and Apportionment meeting, Wednesday, October 21st, 2020 at 2 p.m. Stephanie, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Cruzen,
I'm here.
Comptroller Green,
Here.
President Reed.
Here.
All
Terrific.
present.
All present. Thank you. We have a long agenda for today, so bear with me on this. Items presented for the first time. Item number 1, 21.026, request from the Comptroller's Office for approval of contracts and leases for various city departments as listed on Exhibit A. 2, 21.027, request from the Comptroller's Office for approval of intra-departmental and interdepartmental transfers from various city departments as listed on Exhibit B. 3, 21.028, request from the Comptroller's Office for approval of transfers between projects for capital improvement funds listed on Exhibit C. 4, 21.029, request from the Director of Operations, Mayor's Office for approval of Board Bill 134. This ordinance authorizes the Board of Elections to accept the Center for Tech and Civil Life COVID-19 response grant in the amount of $1,034,210 to provide assistance for expenses incurred from June 15th, 2020 to 12/31/2020 associated with the safe administration of election responsibilities. Number 5, 21.030, request from the Director of Operations, Mayor's Office for approval of Board Bill to be determined. This ordinance authorizes the Board of Public Service to accept the Missouri Department of Natural Resources Air Pollution Control Program Volkswagen Trust Grant in the amount of $423,000. Number 6, 21.031, request from the Director of Operations, Mayor's Office for approval of Board Bill to be determined. This ordinance authorizes the Department of Health to accept the COVID-19 response grant assistance, epidemiology and lab capacity CARES award up to $71,150 and the 2020 Medical Reserve Corps COVID-19 Operation Readiness Award in the amount of $5,000. Number 7, 21.032, request from the Director of Operations, Mayor's Office for approval of Board Bill to be determined. This ordinance authorizes the Department of Health to accept a grant from the Department of Health and Human Services Center for Disease Control and Prevention in the amount of $933,121 for a cooperative agreement known as the Community-Based Approaches to Reducing Sexually Transmitted Diseases. Number 8, 21.033, request from the Deputy Director of Public Safety for approval of Board Bill 126. This ordinance authorizes the execution of a grant agreement between the City of St. Louis Fire Department and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Federal Emergency Management Agency, through the Missouri Department of Public Safety and East-West Gateway Council of Governments to support the cybersecurity coordination position at the Fusion Center. Number 9, 21.034, request from the Deputy Director of Public Safety for approval of Board Bill 127. This ordinance authorizes the execution of a grant agreement between the City of St. Louis Fire Department and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, Fire Prevention and Safety Grant to support the Smoke and Co. Alarm Program in the amount of $149,523.81. Number 10, 21.035, request from the Director of Airports for approval of Board Bill 138. This ordinance authorizes the First Amendment to the Ground Transportation Policy Ordinance number 69382, approved 2613. Number 11, 21.036, request from the Director of Airports for approval of Board Bill 139. This ordinance authorizes a Second Amendment on the on-airport passenger vehicle rental concession agreements. Excuse me. Number 12, 21.037, request from the Director of Airports for approval of Board Bill 140. This ordinance authorizes a third amendment to the operating agreements for management and operation of parking facilities at St. Louis Lambert Airport. Number 13, 21.038, request from the Community Development Administration Executive Director for approval of Board Bill 143. This ordinance authorizes the mayor to submit an annual action plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development (HUD) for the 2021 Community Development Block Grant, $18,426,982. Home Investment Partnership, $2.9 million. Emergency Shelter Grant, $1,575,322. And Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, $2,321,805. And appropriates a total of $25,224,109 for said programs. Excuse me. Number 14, 21.039. Request from the St. Louis Development Corporation, Director of Commercial Development, for approval of Board Bill 135. This ordinance authorizes the issuance of up to 25 million plus issuance costs, principal amount of tax increment financing, TIF revenue notes for the St. Louis Innovation District, Cortex, area-wide redevelopment projects. And number 15, 21.040, request from the President of the Board of Aldermen's Office, Chief of Staff, for approval of Board Bill 114. This ordinance establishes the Justice for St. Louis Families Fund and transfers $2 million from the city's reserve fund to the Justice for St. Louis Fund to provide cash rewards for certain tips and leads related to the crime of murder in the city of St. Louis. That's the extent of the agenda.
I move for adoption of items 1 through 15 as printed.
I'd like to separate out. After there's a second, I'd like to separate out some items.
Okay.
So I'll second your motion, but I'd like to separate out the item 1 and 2 and items 14 and 15.
1 and 2,
For consideration.
14 and 15. Are there any others? Madam Mayor, do you have any that you'd like to separate out before I redo the motion?
No, when we have discussion, I do have a couple of items I'd like to add some discussion to.
Okay. I move that
Could
we
you say that again? 1 and 2,
2 and
14
14
and
15.
15. Okay, thank you.
I move that we adopt items 3 through 13 as printed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a discussion on those items. I want to point out a couple of things, if I could, please. One is item number 4 is the item which accepts $1,034,000 for the election board. And this is a grant from the Center for Tech and Civic Life. It's very significant that we were able to get this $1 million grant, $1,034,000, because the election board is using those funds for early voting locations and personnel, for absentee ballot assembly and processing equipment, for in-person voting at the polling places, a whole number of items, which I think are very significant in this important election. And so I just want to draw your attention, I guess, to the good enhancements that we're going to be able to have at our election board through this grant. The other thing that I wanted to draw your attention to on these items is it's item number 5. And again, this is accepting a $423,000 grant, which came from the Air Pollution Volkswagen Trust grant. And the city is going to be able to purchase 6 electric vehicles for those funds and install charging stations in 6 different locations. Some of them are light duty trucks, some are cars, but the installation of the charging stations is significant. So I think that's worth stopping to note that we have that opportunity. And other than that, I don't have any other comments on items 3 through
13.
13. Does anyone?
I move for the vote.
Does anyone else have any discussion on items 3 through 13?
No.
Okay, all in favor of passing items 3 through 13, please say aye.
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 Okay, all in, passed unanimously, items 3 through 13.
Oh, Madam Mayor and Mr. President, I would like to ask that we would amend items 1 and item 2. We received some corrections to both of those items. And
Okay.
if I can ask Stephanie to read those amendments so that we can offer an amended number 1 and amended number 2 for approval. Stephanie?
Okay.
On item number 1, on page 13, line item number 055, we will remove the part that says federal grants and take out, replace 1166 in column 4 with 1010, changing the fund number from a federal grant fund number to general fund. The amounts and everything else stays the same.
I move for adoption of item number 1 as stated.
Second,
All
Just,
right, for,
as amended, as
as-
amended.
hold on a second. I need to move. We need a motion and a second to get it before us, then we'll amend it. So I move for adoption of item number 1. Comptroller, you would like to second?
I second the amended item 1.
All right, now I move to amend item number 1 as previously stated on page 13. Page 13, removing federal grant and further stated by Stephanie Green.
yes, if I could add on that, I think it's important to note what that item is. That item is a $740,000 contract to behavioral health response. And it is for the purpose of implementing our 911 diversion calls so that, of course, not every call that comes into 911 needs to be responded to by a police car or a fire truck or an ambulance. Many of them are mental health calls. So this will set up that program and run it through the end of the year. In addition,
Madam, we need to get I made the motion. Would you like to second it so we can discuss it?
I believe the
I
comptroller,
believe I
No,
comptroller
seconded it,
seconded it.
no, she seconded the original motion for the first one.
I
To
second the
bring-
amendment. The purpose of separating it out, Mr. President, was to amend, and
I know.
Stephanie read the amended portion of item 1. And I
know,
was
but
hoping that she could, I'm sorry?
No, I know that, but when they replay this tape back, what they will hear is that when I made the motion to bring it before us, your statement was I second the amend. I second
Which
the
is
amendment,
correct.
but no, I hadn't made the motion to amend it yet. So first, before we can amend it, we have to have it in front of us. So I made the motion and requested a second to get it in front of us. Now we can amend it, and which is I made the second motion to amend the bill now that it's in front of us, the item now that it's in front of us. But there was never a second on that one. So just someone just.
move
I think
to
you will see that
second the amendment.
when we play it back,
On
you'll see the
amendment,
comptroller
I'm
did
seconding the
second it.
amendment.
But
If that-
Can
you all
The
hear me?
motion for the
Can you hear me?
amendment was not seconded. I'm just.
Okay,
Can you
Yeah.
hear
Madam
me?
Comptroller, would you like to do that again?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I second amended number 1. Item 1 as amended is what I'm seconding. Does that give clarity?
Yes, that gives clarity. We just needed a second on the amendment because.
You had it.
you know,
Okay, that's fine. We got it now. So I wanted to make a comment on item number 1, line item number 55, because I think it's important, not because it was amended, but because it's important what that line item is doing. That line item is setting up the 911 diversion call system, and it's also setting up we've been calling it cops and clinicians. It's called co-responder crisis responder system services. That's mental health workers, social workers to respond to some of these calls that really do not require a police officer, a fire truck, or an ambulance. And so I just think it's significant. It's one of the things that we amended during the budget process. And this is the actual, there's been an RFP done. This is the actual contract with behavioral health response to help us implement that through the end of the year. Is there any other?
Madam Mayor, that, I would just want to add that is commendable.
I think it's
Yes,
going to
I
be.
agree. Yeah, I agree.
Are there any other comments or discussion items on item number 1 as amended and seconded? All in favor of item number 1 as amended?
We
Aye.
haven't taken the vote to amend it yet. All right, we brought it in front of us, and then I made a motion to amend it. We need to adopt that amendment, just adopt that amendment so that the amendment is officially attached to it. Then we vote to adopt it.
Okay, I'll make-
So first thing we need to do is just because we had a motion and a second for the amendment because the original item did not have it in it. So we have to add that item in it. The only way to add it in it is to amend it. We may had a motion and a second to amend it. So if we vote to adopt that amendment, then it is amended. Then we just vote to adopt that line item after it's amended. So what's before us now is just the motion to amend line item 1.
all in favor of amending line item 1, please say aye.
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 Now, can have a motion to adopt.
We've already have that, so we could just now, all in favor of adopting line item 1 as amended. And then we're done.
All in favor of adopting line item 1 as amended.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, great. Now, anybody like to make a motion on item number 2?
I moved for adoption of line item 2.
Second.
I moved to, and now, Stephanie, is it the same amendment for line item 2?
Line item 2 is different. So it is on the cover sheet, it would be transfer number 10 has been corrected. So if you count down is the first one for traffic and transportation, number 10. It should read 1010, general fund, traffic and transportation. A transfer from 511-5649-121 for $170,000. And a transfer from 511-5649-122 in the amount of $41,851. And those two amounts will be transferred to 511-5237-150 for a total amount of $211,851. So the amount remained the same, but instead of the 4 accounts that were previously listed, there's only 2.
All right, I move for adoption of amendment number 1 to line item 2 as stated by Stephanie Green.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, item number 2 is before us as amended. All in favor of item number 2 as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was unanimous. Okay,
Madam Mayor, I'd like to take up item number 14. This item has to do with TIF notes. And I just wanted to bring up the fact that this particular project regarding the TIF notes has not come before my office. I'm not sure if this would require the signature of the comptroller, but if so, I would certainly hope that a presentation would be forthcoming prior to anyone coming to require my participation with regard to signature.
Okay, that seems like a good idea. Are you willing to take this item up today, or would you prefer to defer it? I think someone from your office is copied on this. I mean, this was sent to you and someone from your office, but you're just saying that they have not been in to present to you. Is that what I hear?
You're absolutely correct. There was previously an attorney that would represent the comptroller's office. Mr. Droney has since retired, and I have not
LaTanya
been
Kenner.
updated. I've not been updated.
Okay. So what would you like to do with this item? You like to defer it till you can have a presentation?
Yes.
Okay. I'm fine with that. So we will defer item number 14 until the comptroller can be presented to. I honestly don't know if that causes any other issues, but certainly Dale Rusatz, Otis Williams will get in touch with your office for a presentation.
Thank you so much.
Okay, item number 15.
Yes, and thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to have this discussed because it is a plan that I can support, but I believe that the discussions that was had in pre-E&A by my staff and the other staff in the pre-E&A wanted this plan to include some more realistic goals and to assure better outcomes. And that is what is would restrict.
It's item number
or
15
withhold.
for us.
Yes, this is item number 15. That would restrict or withhold my support. Additionally, it is
Have we had a motion?
No, we haven't.
Well, no, we haven't. Do you require a motion?
For discussion, we can bring it
That
out.
would,
Yeah, we can do it for discussion purposes because I believe you and also Mayor, I'm assuming the mayor may have some questions also. So I move for adoption of item number 15.
I second it for discussion purposes.
Okay.
Okay, so we
I'll
have a
be-
motion and a second for discussion. We want to go ahead, Madam Comptroller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'll be brief. Secondly, I said I would be willing to support this if it had more realistic outcomes and goals, but I also want to say that I would be willing to support it if it was more fiscally responsible. The funding option is very unreasonable, and it's not something that the city should be doing. We do have a better funding option, and I would like us to look at this plan, move forward with it with a better funding plan.
Okay, thank you. I guess I would add a couple of things to this, to Madam Comptroller's comments. One, I think that it's a good idea to try to find some funds for additional rewards. Rewards don't always work, we know that, but I do think it's an idea that has merit. I will say that I do not think that those tips should come into City Hall. I don't think anybody is going to be able to rely on City Hall for their anonymous tips. The only way that I can see supporting this is if this additional funding goes to Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers has been around for 50 years. They have a phone number that most people know, 866-371-TIPS. They are well regarded and everybody can rely on them to keep everything confidential. And that is so important for people that are wanting to put in tips. So I think we would have to fund this through Crime Stoppers, not to create some other shadow tips line situation. And I would think that some of the money could be used for some further promotion of Crime Stoppers. They do a lot already, but there's probably more that could be done. So $2 million from our reserves in a year when we are facing revenue shortfall of almost $70 million is just a lot. I think we have to have a smaller number. I'd be willing to support somewhere in the range of 300 to 500,000 just for the rest of this year. If it's effective, we'll figure out how to fund this in future years, or you'll come back to us. If it works great, you'll come back to us and we'll figure out more at a later time. I haven't actually had a presentation on your thoughts on this, but I have talked with Crime Stoppers several times about this and welcome the idea, but I think it just needs to get fleshed out a bit more.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Madam Comptroller, for your comments and suggestions. Within the bill itself, within Board Bill 114, we call out for the funding to go to Crime Stoppers. So Crime Stoppers would create a separate account for the city of St. Louis, and the funds would go to Crime Stoppers. We have a number of $2 million. And the reason we put the number of $2 million is because I wanted a cap to be on the number, right? So the program would start out with somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000. The bulk of that $400,000 would be used for advertisement and promotion and a major awareness campaign all across the city, so people understand that this is how you give a tip. It's completely anonymous. It's through Crime Stoppers, right? It's not through the city of St. Louis. A tried, true, and proven system. But you know, right now, if you ask anybody in law enforcement, what's the biggest issue with closing some of these major cases around the city? You know, we close on an average of 30% of the cases in the city, which means 70% of the murder cases in the city are going unsolved. Other cities, the way other cities have risen to meet this challenge, Omaha, Nebraska, they had a 60% closure rate. And when they had that 60% closure rate, they worked to expand the funds for tips, and saw from raising the funds to a $25,000 reward fund and a major awareness putting a major awareness campaign behind it, they went from a 60% closure rate on murders in the city of in Omaha, Nebraska, to over a 90% closure rate. So you know, that's why we're putting the program forward. Again, some of the major things that will be operated in conjunction with Crime Stoppers. So we would fund the program through Crime Stoppers. It would have a major awareness campaign put behind it so people understand how they can come forward with information. And yes, indeed, none of your information is tracked, not your IP address, not your phone number, not your name, nothing is tracked to it, right? And if we can get to the point where we close somewhere in the neighborhood of 90% of the murder cases in the city of St. Louis, can you imagine how that would transform our city? I mean, that would be a major transformative thing to have that happen in our city. Crime Stoppers is very excited. We've been in constant communication with them. They're very excited about the program. They're looking forward to getting to work on it. We've talked to them about, you know, what a starting budget would look like. And here's the great thing. Let's say we put in place that first $400,000, and we don't get any leads that are going to lead to, you know, the closure of any of these murder cases or anything like that. It's not going to cost the city another dime, right? The money that's put in the account at Crime Stoppers stay there until we take somebody off the street through a tip, that led to the closure of that case, right? And, you know, quite frankly, the other major issue here is there are a lot of families all across the city of St. Louis that need to have some closure and need to see some justice served in the murder of their loved ones. And the city of St. Louis, we need to step up and show them that these things are indeed serious for us also, and that we're putting some stuff in place that can help transform that. And this is one of those items. Kansas City, same thing. Kansas City's raised theirs and seen more closure in their murder cases because of raising it. So if we want people to be involved, we have to let them know how they can get involved. We have to also let them know that indeed they can get involved and be anonymous. And we have to give them an opportunity through some funding to, if they want to move their family to another neighborhood because they still feel uncomfortable that they came forward in an anonymous way, they will have the funds to do that. So I'm excited about it. You know, again, the reason I identified the emergency reserve fund is because I can't think of any greater emergency in the city of St. Louis. And if we could take $400,000 from the $50+ million emergency reserve fund that could transform what's happening as it relates to murders in this city, I think that would be a great thing. There's corporations that will not move to the city of St. Louis because of the number of murders. There are corporations leaving the city because of the number of murders. There are students that want to attend St. Louis University that decide not to because they look at the murder rate in the city of St. Louis. It's costing us each and every day that we continue to let these murders happen without answering them directly. So I think this is a very direct way to answer.
So, Mr. President, could I ask a question?
Yes.
Are you, I just got it 4 minutes.
Do you have,
I
make
got,
sure you have the amended bill also. I want to make sure you have that.
so I got that at 1:56 PM, right before we signed on.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry.
So I'm reading it while you're talking, but it still says $2 million. It doesn't say 400,000.
Yeah, what we're going to do is, Madam Mayor, as you know, as you remember when we're at the board, we do on that perfection calendar. So we're getting all the amendments together ready for the perfection calendar. So we will be amending it, on the perfection calendar for the initial. We want that initial allotment to be 400,000, right? And then at the, if 5-10 years from now, however long it takes, we ever hit that $2 million mark, we would revisit it at that point, right? So I still want to have that $2 million cap. That $2 million cap is a cap that essentially sets a lifespan on this board bill. So, and how long will it take us to meet that? Who knows? It may take us 15 years, it may take us 2 years, 1 year, whatever. But we do that first 400,000, and then once we go through that, and if we happen to go through that by getting a lot of information and that leads to the arrest and incarceration of people who have murdered people in the city of St. Louis, that would be a good thing. So what the next step is that it would have to come back to the Board of E&A. So the Board of E&A would authorize another allotment. It could be another $100,000, could be another 50,000 or whatever, right? But the board bill will give us that authority across the next so many years, however long it takes to work through that. But it's not a $2 million cost to the city today at all whatsoever.
So that's what it says in the bill, in the as amended bill. So let me tell you what I could support. I could support a bill that says $400,000. And of course, this bill also sets up the commission, or it's not a commission, what is it? The Justice for St. Louis Families Fund. And we will have the opportunity when we do the budget, which is not too far away, to put more money in that fund next year, if it looks like that's a good idea. But what's before us is taking $2 million out of the reserves and putting it in this fund and you yourself said it might take 10 or 15 years to use it. I think before we do that, we ought to, if $400,000 is fine, send that to Crime Stoppers through this fund. And when it's very successful, which I hope that it is, then we'll find the funds to fund more.
You know, the other thing is, and as you stated in your opening statements, the importance of awareness campaign and the importance of that people understand how serious this is. If we're doing an awareness campaign and the media and what's happening in the media, they're saying the city is committing $400,000. I'm sorry, that's not going to wake any people up, right? Which is why we put a cap on it, and our cap being $2 million, right? It doesn't matter in whatever our original allotment is, right? Our original allotment may be 400, could be 350 or whatever it is, right? That's our only cost today. But the board bill will stand past that first 400,000. So if we do a board bill just for $400,000 and we commit $400,000, the next time we go to do this, we'd have to pass another ordinance or something, because we would.
Well, it'd be in the budget. You'd put it in the budget for next year, which is an ordinance, of course.
Well, if you would rather me write a board bill that says that there shall be $400,000 on an annual basis committed to this in perpetuity, I would be glad to do that. But that would far exceed the $2 million that I'm talking about today. And
yeah, I don't know if you're able to do that. I mean, I don't think we can
tie
commit
those funds up, right? And it would tie those funds up. This way, we're putting a cap in place. We're committing this original amount. And when we need to revisit it because the funds have run low and we get another request from Crime Stoppers because they've paid out X amount of dollars, then the Board of E&A can take it up again, or we can put it in that following year's budget then, right? But there's still that cap, and it gives us an opportunity for an awareness campaign with people understanding that we are taking this.
Who would, so Crime Stoppers would develop and run the awareness campaign. Am I correct about that?
The way we envision the awareness campaign to be to happen is we would work with City TV, right? City TV would help us develop any ads and various different things like that in conjunction with Crime Stoppers, right? That would save us funds by using, a built-in city service with the capabilities to do it. And Crime Stoppers obviously would take the lead on those ads. And
who would buy I mean, you'd have to run those ads somewhere.
Yeah, Crime Stoppers would purchase the ads through the funds that we would allocate to them.
Okay. All right. And you've talked to Crime Stoppers about all this?
We talked to Crime Stoppers about it. The numbers I'm giving you is based on, the current budget amount. And again, it's a way for us to ease into it and also have a cap. I would be glad to. One of the things that we can do is we can forward all of the balance of the amendments, and if we would like to have a special E&A next week, I could wait until after we do our special E&A next week to put forward my final amendment, our final bill for perfection next Friday instead of this Friday. I'd be willing to do that.
Okay, I think that what's before, if you want to amend this to be $400,000, then I would be willing to look at this. But I think it would be better because there's no place in here that it says $400,000. It says anything about the, who's going to do the marketing. I think what needs to happen from my point of view is that we need to have an MOU with Crime Stoppers. We need to work that out. I've talked with Crime Stoppers also, and they're supportive of having additional funds for rewards. I'm supportive of that also. But I think having a meeting, a special meeting, or at our next meeting, whatever we're able to work out is fine. But in the meantime, let's get the MOU in place. Let's get the right numbers in this board bill. I don't think it's $2 million out of the reserve fund. So,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to just chime in so that I could take a moment to talk about what we appear to agree on. I think the three of us appear to agree on that Crime Stoppers should be the vehicle that launches this as we talk about this program. So I wanted to get that out. Also, Madam Mayor, when you stated that you could approve a lower number, so I want to say that I am in agreement with that as well. But I also wanted to talk about, from my point of view, what I believe where we are with regard to transferring money from the reserve. I heard the board president say that the city of Omaha had this program. I do not believe that city used reserve funds to do it. So I would propose that we do not use reserve funds, that we would simply transfer funds to Fund 190, that's the citywide fund, and we would transfer funds from those departments where we have identified we can do so. Paul Payne went to the trouble of identifying several departments, which was just to start with, where we could move $50,000 from several departments. And then I believe he identified about half of the departments which was available. I think it was a dozen. So there's about 20 some odd departments that we could transfer those funds in order to come up with a $400,000 number and set that up immediately, as a matter of fact, and not have to go through the legislative process to get this done. This is an executive matter. This is an executive board. We can act immediately, and we've all three identified this to be an emergency. So I wanted to add my point of view regarding the funding piece. The funding piece that's brought forth in the board bill, in my view, is unreasonable. I think a better funding source would be to just simply do the transfers. We can have those at a special meeting if we choose to do so, Madam Mayor and Mr. President, and we then would have established the fund and be able to transfer those dollars immediately and put all the policy and procedures that we're speaking of now forth with it, because as the mayor stated, the MOU would include what we would require or desire, and with our partnership with Crime Stoppers. Now, I did speak with Crime Stoppers myself, but it's been a while. It's been a couple of years ago. I did set up a crime prevention fund that did have some funding in it, and it was spent. The purpose was this very same thing, and that is to increase the amount of funds for tips. So we do need this. I think it's good that we can agree, the three of us, to move this forward. I'm very hopeful that we can agree that this does not have to be a board bill, that we can move swifter than that. And we can also do this without moving money from our reserves, but simply from identifying, with the help of Paul Payne, who's the director, who went through quite a bit this weekend to help identify those funds in each department that he identified that could be tapped right now, get us to the $400,000. And as the mayor previously stated, in the next couple of months, we would also identify funding for the following year so that we can move forward. We want this to be successful. To give you an example of why I'm saying what I'm saying about the funding, we have Cure Violence. Cure Violence has $7 million set aside, yet our murder rate continues to escalate. So a set aside is not the answer. The answer is money ready and available now. Wasting another week or two or three for final passage or whatever the process is not what's needed here, as much as it is that the three of us agree that we can come together, move money from available funds in several accounts and then establish it with the MOU from the Crime Stoppers organization and move this forward. So I'm in agreement with how you're going to do this. What I disagree with is the funding source. So I hope that I can get the two of you to agree with me on this part that helps us move forward. And then finally, I would say that one of the things that was pointed out at the pre-ENA by the staff was the wording of the arrest portion, and there was no mention of arrest and charge. It was arrest and capture was the exact wording. And so I think those kinds of things can be worked out going forward with the inclusion of those who are in public safety that can help with how this can work on behalf of the citizens of the city as we do everything we can to reduce crime, because that is something that we really need to do.
All right.
So thank you, and that's my comments.
All right, thank you, Madam Comptroller. We had a discussion with former U.S. Attorney today, and he said that arrest means charged, right? So when we use the words arrest in the board bill, we're using it in the technical term, in the technical sense, based on our conversations with Crime Stoppers and other professionals like that. So, you know, and again, the $2 million, when we say $2 million, $2 million is, we're not setting aside $2 million in an account, right? We're putting a cap on the entire program up to $2 million. So we would do $400,000. The only commitment that we would make is that $400,000 this year, right? And when additional funding is needed, a request would come in from Crime Stoppers, and then the Board of ENA would be able to act on that request under the guidance of this bill. The final amended bill, it doesn't sound like you or the mayor have had enough time to look at the final amended bill, because not the final amended bill, the proposed amended bill that
I don't believe I have that.
Yeah, and I'm almost sure you don't have it based on
Okay.
some of the things that you brought up, and I don't think that the comptroller has it also.
No, I don't have it.
Yeah, so that's why I was saying maybe what we do is hold it, instead of me amending the bill this Friday at the Board of Aldermen, I would hold it over and amend it next Friday, and then we would have a ENA meeting sometime next week before Friday to take a look at those final amendments. And that'll give you and the comptroller an opportunity to take a look at some of the amendments that we're proposing, and then offer up any additional changes that you would like to see.
Okay.
And I think that
Well,
that way we can move it expeditiously.
Well, I just again want to reiterate, I do not believe the money should be moved from the reserve. That's
And that's fine.
irresponsible simply because it costs us more to borrow, which means we have less to budget. So as long as
I'm okay with that. Yeah,
Okay, good.
I'm okay. I'm okay with any of those things. The couple of things that I think we need to absolutely have. We need the funds, whatever funds there are, to go to Crime Stoppers. We need 400,000 initial seed money, and I would like us to have a cap out there, because the cap helps us to advertise in the market. You know, the how seriously we're taking it, right? You know, and then we can always revisit that at a later date. But I think that cap is important. The cap does not make us set aside money in any account right now or any of those things. It's just a cap that says at basically at the $2 million mark, this whole ordinance goes away, and then we'd have to revisit it and offer up another ordinance or whatever we want to do from there. Madam Comptroller, I'm okay if you guys have a better place to take the money from. Let's take it from there, but let's just get it done and moving so we can help these families. So I appreciate the comments from both you and the mayor today. And I'll make sure we get all of the changes that we are proposing to the bill based on information we've gotten from Crime Stoppers and various different folks till now. We'll get all that information to you, and then you can review it, and then we can take it up before next Friday. And I
Okay,
would be willing to put the bill on informal this Friday, hold it over for a week so that we can take it up next Friday. I would also like to, and I'll also send it to our public safety director because I think he could help us tremendously on it also.
that's great. I think we do need an MOU with Crime Stoppers. I think the thing to be advertised is the $10,000 and the $15,000 rewards. And I don't know any reason you'd want to put a cap on it, frankly. If this is a good program, if this works and really helps us solve crimes and leads to the arrest of people that are responsible for the murders of our people, adults and kids, then I think, certainly it'll be something that the city will want to continue funding. So
I agree.
we're going to set this aside for now. Is that correct? Are we in agreement?
Yep.
Okay.
So I withdraw my motion and the comptroller can
Okay.
withdraw a second. And
I
we
withdraw my second.
Okay.
and can we request what date would you all be available next week? Can we request the
So
Stephanie
could I
work
could
that
I-
out for us?
bring up one other topic? We have a lot going on here and I was going to ask at the appropriate time if we could have a special meeting in 2 weeks, say on November 4th. I just picked that day because it's 2 weeks from today. Because there are several other items. We have this CARES Act money. At least right now, it has to be spent by 12/31. And so I'd like not to wait until November, 20th or whatever that date is. So if it would be acceptable, I think we could plan towards a special E&A meeting on November the 4th.
November the
With
4th.
this, because we've got a number of other items that are in the works right now, having to do a lot of it with the CARES Act money. So I defer to you all on that, but just letting you know that I don't think we're going to be ready by Wednesday for this coming Wednesday for all of that.
Okay, so it'll be that.
Go to November
follow-
4th. That would be,
November 4th.
and I don't know if that works for your schedules or not, but our folks can help figure that out.
I believe I have a doctor's appointment on that day. I know it's that week, but I will double check and get back to you. But I'm willing to meet that week.
Yeah, that's
fourth,
fine.
fifth, depending on what day the doctor's appointment is.
That's absolutely fine. We can work this schedule out for approximately, we'll call it 2 weeks from now. However that works. Okay. So we have one more item on our agenda, which is not a numbered item, but other business. Here it is. And that was the request from the President of the Board of Aldermen Office Chief of Staff for a formal update on the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department status of body camera implementation. And the implementation of body cameras is moving along very swiftly. And I will say, Mr. President, of course, or to your Chief of Staff, we would be happy to discuss the progress with you at any time. I know you sent a letter to us a day or two ago, but we don't have to be so formal. If you want some information or need some information, ask us. We'll be more than happy to share it.
No, the reason, just as a point of clarification, the reason we send it to have it formally put on the agenda is when we get a certain amount of requests, we address it from, okay, this is something that we need to get
Sure.
some information on. So,
Sure.
I think that's to do it in a more formal setting would be helpful because it gets information out to everybody all at once.
That's fine. We're prepared to give you that update today.
Okay.
And Judge Edwards, I believe, is on this call. I can't see him.
Yes. Yes,
I
he is.
am,
Are you on
I
here?
am-
Okay, so
I
I
am
will
on a
have
call.
Public Safety Director Judge Jimmy Edwards give an update on the body camera and the car camera project.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and good afternoon, everybody. I welcome the opportunity to talk about and to give you an update on the camera programs, the body worn camera, as well as the card camera. Before anything else, however, let me say clearly that neither the police department or its vendors, suppliers, or technical support experts have been dilatory in the implementation of the body camera program. In fact, quite the contrary. In advance of this ENA meeting, I provided each of you with a brief overview of the status of the camera program. Nonetheless, I will highlight in more detail a few milestones in furtherance of reaching our target date of November the 30th, 2020, for officers to be wearing their body cameras. The utility camera selected by the city is a very complex and sophisticated computer. It is not one that is purchased off the shelf and immediately distributed to our officers. It requires very technical adaptations and integration into our current computer-aided design system in order that it may function automatically. For example, when an officer unholsters his or her weapon or turns on emergency lights, the camera will automatically come on. The following dates, however, and related actions will amplify for all of you what we've done over the last 3.5 months. On June 25th, 2020, the body worn camera contract was signed with utility. On July 13th, selected police officers were detached to a newly created body camera unit we call BCU. July 22nd, St. Louis City and St. Louis County met to discuss best practices for our body cameras. On July 29th, training for the body cameras was set. 653 police officers and sergeants were identified to be trained. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, only 20 police officers and sergeants could be trained per session. The training occurred between September 7th and September 26th. Between August 3rd and August 5th, a site visit was conducted by utility. During this visit, the representatives surveyed the supply division, installed a waypoint at police headquarters, and met with our body camera unit. A waypoint allows the download of data from body worn cameras as well as car cameras and allows it to be uploaded into a cloud. Each area station has a waypoint as well as headquarters. On August the 4th, 2020, discussions commenced about computer-aided dispatch systems, integration between IT and Hexagon. August the 6th, work on our officers' uniforms modification started in order to host the camera. August the 7th, preliminary work started to outfit our police vehicles in order for them to receive their cameras. August the 12th, the drafting of special orders regarding uniforms and correct usage of body cameras commenced. August the 31st, body cameras, rockets, and associated parts were shipped from utility to the police division. The controllers for the body cameras were not yet fabricated. They are unique to our cameras and they are made in-house at utility. Those along with holster sensors were shipped out in batches of 150 each week until all 800 of them were received. September the 4th, 1,000 SIM cards arrived, 800 for body cameras, 200 for vehicles. On September the 7th, on Labor Day, our BCU officers were trained on their body cameras. This was important because they would subsequently become the trainers for newly new folk that would be receiving body cameras. Between September the 7th and October the 16th, 654 police officers and sergeants were successfully trained on the body camera and in-car cameras. Members of the Circuit Attorney's Office and the Civilian Oversight Board were also trained during this period. In addition, 154 vehicle installations were completed and all 8 waypoints were completely installed. On October the 12th, a purchase order was completed for the CAD upgrade. This is really important because the CAD upgrade allows our cameras to automatically be activated. It takes the police officers out of the equation. So there are no manual activations when an officer removes his or her weapon or emergency lights or sirens are activated. Between October the 19th, this week, and the 23rd, commanders and detectives will be trained. Also, just on Monday, we did receive a small number of our modified uniforms back at police department. I want to finally emphasize that notwithstanding the many barriers posed by COVID-19, the city and its police departments have worked continuously to bring body cameras to fruition. I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have with respect to body cameras and the status of body cameras to date.
But you're muted.
Madam Mayor, you're muted.
You're muted, Madam Mayor. You're still muted. There you go. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
That is going to be the phrase for 2020.
Yeah.
You're muted. You're still muted.
You're still
So, all right, thank you. Back to seriousness here. Are there any questions or comments for Judge Edwards or anyone?
Comment. I just want to thank the judge. That was a really thorough and that was a great update. That gave me so much more information, I'm sure, for people that are watching and other folks that get this information later. That's more information than I've had about these body cameras, and it shows a steady progress toward the toward the final goal of having everybody up and running on the body camera. So we would be looking, you said by when in November?
On or before November the 30th.
On or before November 30th, we should have all officers up on body cameras. And how many are up today? I know that's this BCU unit. How many officers did you say were in the BCU unit?
We have 4 officers detached to the BC unit, which is very new because we have to create a space. We also have to train these units, these officers, with respect to how to download data, how to respond to sunshine requests. We also have to make sure that the data is secure.
Okay.
So we're training on ethics and we're training on the law.
Do you know how many, or recall how many officers we have in that BCU unit and all?
4.
4 officers.
The commander of that unit is Lieutenant Colonel Mike Sack.
Okay. And currently today we've trained the 654 officers are been trained and brought up to speed on the body cameras, and the CAD system upgrades are moving forward correctly.
That is correct.
And have all the commanders been trained yet?
The commanders are being trained at this time.
Being trained at this time. And then the next step after this would be what?
The next step, of course, is to integrate the CAD. Once the CAD has been successfully integrated and we have received our uniforms, this camera requires a modification of the uniform because it does not hang on the uniform with the clip. It actually slides in. And so we have to modify not only shirts, we have to modify jackets and coats as well.
All right. And in the end, how many total officers will be uniformed with body cameras, just for the public?
We expect about 800
Okay.
to be launched on November the 30th. And then, of
Got it.
course, we will continue to
Roll them out in
roll
batches
them out.
after. Okay, all right, all right, that's the number I need. All right, thank you, thank you. And it would probably be helpful to have you do an update in front of the Public Safety Committee also on this.
I would be happy to do that, Mr. President.
All right, thank you so much, Judge Edwards.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'd also like to say thank you to the Director of Public Safety. That was a very thorough update for us, and I do appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Madam
Yeah.
Councilor.
And let me just say thank you, of course, to the Director of Public Safety, but to all of the of St. Louis Police Department who's been working very hard on this, and other departments as well, to make sure that this all comes together and works seamlessly. It's a complex system. It's a very good system, but you know, it takes a little bit of time to get it all right and get all the pieces put together. So we're well on our way.
Excuse me,
Thank you,
Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor.
Excuse me,
I
Madam.
also,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Madam Comptroller. I just have a question when you finish.
thank you so much. I just got word, Madam Mayor and Mr. President, about a presentation that I could have on item number 14 rather quickly. And I also understand that there is some time constraints regarding the approval of item number 14. So if we can go back to that item, I would like to offer a motion on item 14.
And I second,
I would move to approve item number 14.
and I second the approval of the motion to approve item number 14.
Thank you for that. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on item number 14?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to restate that there would be a presentation forthcoming for me, and I want to assure the people who are with the Cortex organization that to be able to move this forward on their timetable. And I want to thank them also for contacting me in the middle of this meeting so that we can move forward without any delay.
That's great. Thank you. All in favor of item number 14, please say aye.
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 Thank you. That passed unanimously. Okay. Any other business?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Under the discussion, I did send to you, Madam Mayor, and the board president, a need to hear from the two of you regarding the close of the workhouse. We've had some comments made publicly by the Public Safety Committee of the Board of Aldermen, as well as, Madam Mayor, other comments made recently, and also the report that has come from the commissioner on the close of the workhouse. It appears that the close of the workhouse is set out in the board bill that was passed is now uncertain. So I really would like to hear what the current thoughts are regarding the close of the workhouse.
So we have actually, I'll just make a few comments and then maybe turn it over to Judge Edwards if he's still on the call. But we have actually been working very hard. Dale Glass, the Commissioner Glass, has been working very hard putting together the plans to close the workhouse, to try to figure out how to safely integrate the people that are at MSI into CJC, and to do that in a safe way and in a way that continues to comply with all of the national standards for detention. So he's worked hard on that. I believe it was just yesterday that Paul Payne made a presentation to the board. This was one of the items that was requested in the board bill. And so we're still working towards that. I do know, and I believe it was in a recent presentation that, of course, we will have to find some other locations most likely for people. It's very difficult to know exactly how many people we need to detain, but we don't want to have to put anybody on, you know, a mattress on the floor or anything like that. So, you know, there's been extensive work to try to find additional locations. They are considerably outside of St. Louis. But we are still working towards that. Would be where I would leave that. Judge Edwards, if you have
Mayor,
anything.
I am here. I certainly would concur with everything that you said. Madam Comptroller, what we're doing is we're looking around the state to try to determine who would be available to house our detainees. Not only that, I asked them to go outside of the state of Missouri. You will recall that in the mid-90s, we did in fact do that. We had detainees housed, I believe, in Texas. It didn't work out very well. So I'm trying to avoid having to send detainees outside of the state of Missouri should we reach capacity. I do expect that we will reach capacity or exceed capacity very quickly, assuming that we have 0 federal detainees within our facility at CJC. So I just think it's inevitable based upon the number of arrests, based upon the intelligence, based upon the data that we have with respect to arrestees, specifically, and I'll use a little jargon here, cases pending application of warrants being close to 1,500, another 800 or 900 people out due to COVID. So those are things that those things have helped us not exceed capacity at this time, but it's certainly not sustainable.
Um, May I, Madam Mayor? So
Of course.
one of the, you know, when we originally passed the board bill, and the board bill was put forward to encourage a responsible plan for closing the workhouse by the date set forth in the ordinance. And the initial presentation by Dale Glass to the committee, I wasn't able to attend, did not lay out that quote unquote responsible plan, because the responsible plan wouldn't include people sleeping on mattresses on the floors and things of that nature. That's the opposite of a responsible plan. So I took that to mean that the commissioner did not have enough time on the front end to really get the information back from surrounding municipalities, and which is part of what was essentially stated in the meeting when the commissioner said that he had placed calls to those places, but hadn't gotten a call back. So one of the things that I think we should do, like right away, like tomorrow, issue a RFP for the housing of these detainees that could be turned around in very short order. That would assure that it's more than just a phone call going out to some of these surrounding municipalities, right? Which, you know, it could, those voice messages may just be on somebody's answering machine or in somebody's post-it notes, and they're going to return it eventually. They may not understand the time crunch that we're under. So we still may have an opportunity to you know, develop a partnership with some surrounding municipalities, but also, as stated by you know, Judge Edwards, if we have to reach out further, we reach out further, right? And, you know, certainly putting out that RFP wouldn't completely tie our hands, but it would get the clock to running on something. And it would give us an opportunity to get some, you know, some real true input from people who could actually do this.
Mr. President, as a point of information, I believe that the contact was made via email as opposed to telephone calls. There were some telephone
Okay.
call follow-up, but we do have a record of emails being sent out to
Okay,
all
all
of
right,
the.
all right. I wasn't minimizing it. I'm saying, but we have a sense of urgency on our side that may not be clearly expressed or clearly appreciated on the other side, which may be why we have not received the information or back. Also could be that they're working short staffed because of COVID-19 or a host of different reasons why we have not gotten those responses that we certainly would expect and hope to have had by now. But I am happy to hear that you all are still reaching out and still moving forward and still working to better that original proposal that was presented to the members of the committee.
Thank you. I think a couple of things to point out here. One, when we are in the middle of COVID, and I think none of us probably, back in March, none of us probably expected that we would still be what appears to be now sort of at a third spike in COVID. But every detention facility is, and including ours, of course, we are trying very hard not to introduce COVID into our facility because it's just a very dangerous situation. And I would imagine that when you're reaching out to other locations similarly, they want to be sure that they're managing that COVID. So we're trying to do this during the middle of the third spike in our COVID pandemic adds a little bit of difficulty to this, but we are still working on it. The other thing I want to point out is that earlier on item number, 4 or 5 on our agenda today, we talked about the money to behavioral health response to help us with the 911 diversion programs and the COPS and clinician program, where those calls that really need to be responded to by a mental health worker are diverted, and a mental health worker or social worker helps to respond to those calls and get the services to the people that are in need. The funds to do that came from one of the cuts that we made to the MSI budget. So we're already seeing some benefit from cutting the MSI budget. And I think that, we just have to continue to look at this. Yesterday, I believe, Paul's, and of course, all these meetings are online. So you can go back and you can look at the YouTube and see both of Dale's presentations, 2 or 3 presentations, and Paul Payne's, but everybody's working in this direction while we're in the middle of this pandemic. Are there any questions on that?
I just want to say thank you for your comments and update. I'm sure that our citizens appreciate hearing the update. I also would like to propose that we have an update at each ENA meeting on this subject, since we have that board bill does have a deadline associated with it regarding the closure of MSI. So updates are very helpful as we move forward towards that goal.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, is there any other business, or is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn this meeting of the Board of ENA.
Second?
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. We're going to
Thanks,
work together to get another date in about 2 weeks.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.